Hello, hi, my name is Min. Welcome to my channel, Min's English class. Today, I'm going to write an essay with you, an IELTS essay. I know a lot of you feel terrified when you're asked to write an essay, and students often feel that writing a good essay is the most difficult part of the IELTS exam. However, there are several strategies and techniques you can use to write a great IELTS essay. And that's what we're going to cover today. So stay with me till the end. If you search Google or YouTube videos for tips on how to write an IELTS essay, you often end up watching videos about memorizing templates, using them to get you good scores. And trust me on this, you're wasting your time. IELTS examiners are not idiots, and they can easily distinguish a genuine essay from a memorized script. So don't sweat it. Most of the times in our life, we have to follow the right way. And again, this video is not about easy tips, all-powerful scripts, nor shortcuts to a Band 9 essay, because there isn't one. Trust me, we are going to do this the right and the only way to get a great score in IELTS writing tasks. We will go over the question, analyze the graph in detail, and write a great essay together, you and me from top to bottom. No magic, just you watch and repeat what I do, and that's how we learn something. Okay, for IELTS writing task, you need to write a summary of at least 150 words in response to a particular graph, bar, line, or pie graph. And over here, I have pie charts for you. And you also need to respond to a table, chart, or process, how something works and how to do something. And in this task, the examiner tests your ability to select and report the main features of the given graphs. Therefore, it is crucial for you to identify the important information and messages from the given information to describe and compare the data. Okay, and now we are going to look at an IELTS Writing Task 1 question and analyze it together and write the whole essay. This pie chart shows the amount of money at a children's charity located in the United States of America received and spent in 1 year. And we need to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. And write at least 150 words. Okay? So the first thing that we have to do is to figure out the important messages. And also, we need to do a comparison between these two pie charts. Okay? So let's do that first. Let's analyze the graphs that we are seeing in front of us. So on the left, we have the pie chart for revenue sources, which is basically the income the charity organization made in the year 2016. And on the right, we have the chart for expenditures, where the charity organization spend their money. Okay, so let's take a look and find some similarities. The first thing that we notice is that over here in revenue sources, donated food takes up most of the income they earned. And over here in expenditures, we know that program service was the main source of expenses where the organization spent their money on. Okay, so we also need to use these data, and we know that the data is represented in percentage. And also, there are several sources that are visible here. The major source of their income was donated food. Second was the community contributions, and then they earned 2.2% of their money from program revenue, and vice versa. And over here, they only have 3 items where they spent their money on. First, they have spent 95.8% of all their money on program service. So we can talk about that as similarity. And also, the other two are fundraising and management and general cost. So they didn't really use their money on many things. They only used their money on 3 items. Okay, and this part is super important because this talks about how much money they earned over the year 2016. So the total money they earned is $53,561,580, and the total money they spent was $53,224,896 in total. So this one is greater. So they earned money enough to cover their expenses, which is a good news, but this is not a great news because it was barely enough to cover the expense. And we're gonna talk about that in our essay. Okay? I mean, also, we have to talk about in our essay that even though they had multiple sources of revenue, they were not very significant. And we need to talk about that. And we also need to talk about how they only spent about 4% on other items, and they spent about 96% of all their income, all their money in program service. Okay? So now we have gathered all the information from the graphs that are given to us. Okay? And then we're going to write an essay together. All right. When you get these graphs, what you need to do is use the blank spaces on the paper to write down notes. So we have to kind of summarize the graphs in like 1 or 2 sentences. So we can talk about the graph shows the amount of revenue and expenditures. And we also have to talk about that this is for the year 2016 for a children's charity organization. In USA. Okay. And second, we need to identify the messages that the graphs are showing. And the graph is showing the graph and the graph is trying to say that the money earned is barely enough to cover the expenses. Okay, and we're going to talk about that. And 3, we're going to go in details and talk about each revenue sources and also each expenditure items. Okay, using real data. Okay, so you have to use data from the graphs. So in our essay, we will have these numbers and these information all written over there. Okay, and lastly, we need to talk about the comparison, the similarities between these 2 graphs. Okay, so we have done the analysis, brief analysis of the graphs, and then now using these information, we're going to write the essay together. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so now we are on to the writing part. So just like any other academic essay, we need to write body, introduction, and conclusion. And in this case, our own conclusion is irrelevant maybe unnecessary. So we're going to skip that part, but we're just going to talk about the summary of the information that is given to us. But first, we need to talk about what these graphs are. So we can say the pie chart show, and for these words, in this case, we can use other synonyms like demonstrate or depict or display, any other words that have the similar meanings. The pie charts show the amount of revenue, and of course expenditures in 2016. And in 2016 for children's charity organization in USA. Okay, and make sure you put C and over here these ones as capital letters. And we are also going to say that the data shown is represented in percentage. Okay, so that's the basic description of the two graphs that are given to us. You can also add the two charts are placed right next to each other for comparison. Okay, so the two charts are shown next to each other so that people can tell the difference easily. Okay, so that's our first paragraph. And next, we're going to talk about the messages. So what these graphs are trying to say. And we can say, we can write our transition words like overall, so which kind of summarizes what the graphs are trying to say. Overall, the total amount of revenue earned was just enough. Instead of using the word just, we can say other words like barely. Okay, just enough to cover the expenses, and we can say throughout the year 2016. Okay, so this is the message that the two graphs are trying to say, right? And when you're trying to write sentences and sentences next to each other, always remember to add in transition words like moreover when you are giving extra information or detail, and moreover, the donated food took up the highest share in income sources. And the reason why I wrote income is because we have multiple revenue, and repetition is usually not very good when you're writing an academic essay. And then we can also say while, because we are doing a comparison. In the expenditure pie chart, 95.8% of all the money was spent on program services, right? So we have to identify that. So we can say while the majority of all that income, or we can say all that fund, to give some variety. Okay, we don't want to repeat, we don't want to use the same word over and over again. Okay, that kind of shows that we have limited vocabulary, and we don't want the examiners to think like that, right? So we can use words like fund or maybe like income, revenue, okay, simultaneously, interchangeably. All that fund was used on program services. Okay, so now we have 2 paragraphs. The first one was the description. The next one was the messages. Okay, and now we're going to dig deeper. We're going to talk about the actual data. Of course, you can replace this one with first or firstly, first of all. Okay. And so to begin with, let's talk about the revenue sources. Donated food constituted we are using different words because I don't want to repeat the word took up again. So donated food constituted most of the revenue. Most of the revenue for the charity. The charity at 86. What's the percentage? 86%. Okay, and then similarly, because we are doing comparison with regard to expenditures, of course, we can use other words, other phrases like regarding, as for, things like that. But I prefer to use with regard to because it's 3 words, and it kind of shows that you have great vocabulary as well. So similarly, with regard to expenditures, program services were the single greatest expense item. Okay, so now we have we also need to specify what percentage at 95.8%, right? So program services were the single greatest expense item at 95%, okay? And the other, we also need to say the other categories were much smaller, okay? And then we are going to list all the revenue and expense items just one by one, okay? The rest of the essay is pretty straightforward. All you need to do is just to list the remaining items, the remaining pieces of information shown on the pie charts just one by one till you cover the rest of it, okay? Also, it is very important that you are using all these transition words to make a smooth flow of your essay. And also, you need to use variety of sentences and also variety of vocabularies. The complete essay should look like this one. Lastly, what we need to do before we finish this part of the essay is we need to check for grammar errors. So basically, you need to read over your essay. The pie charts show the amount of revenue and expenditures in 2026 for a children's charity organization in USA. So you need to check whether your subject and verb agreement is met, and you also need to check for spelling. You also need to check for punctuations, whether you put periods or not, so things like that.